Hi all, before we get started, I want to remind you once again, if you're stuck on a homework problem, please go and let me know in the forums or in a private comment, or shoot me an email, set up a Zoom call, whatever you can do, please let me know if you're stuck. If you have filled out those forms, go back and check, see if I've posted a video, check your email for a response. I want to be available. I am available for wherever you are stuck in this class, but you have to let me know and you have to check back for a response because obviously I can't get back to you immediately unless you want to set up a Zoom, and then you'll know exactly when I'll talk to you. All right, we're going to do our last notes for this week. We're going to talk about using our calculator to graph trig functions. So if you don't have your calculator with you, please pause the video now, stop, and go get it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about on our calculator is the viewing window. So number one, it says find an appropriate viewing window for the function. In this case, f of x is equal to x squared cosine of x. So the main thing with the viewing window, which if you are on your calculator, what you're going to want to do is just go to the button that says window as a nice reminder. And in this case, you're going to have your x min, your x max, your y min, and your y max. These are the main things that you're going to be changing. Now, your x min and your x max, generally, we want these approximately equal to 1 period. So for min, you have a -1. For max, +1. So if your period is 2 pi, you can just type that in there. Since 2 pi is about 6, like maybe just put, -7 and +7 as a nice default. Because then you don't have to use the pi button, and also you know you're going to get that full number. For your y min and your y max, you want that to be about equal to your amplitude. And for min, and then again, max is approximately equal to your positive amplitude. And since you want to get the full thing, if we're doing a default one, I'm just going to say -2, +2, because then I'll see the whole thing as, again, this is your default. So for number one, find an appropriate viewing window. Here we've got x squared times cosine of x. So if we started with just these, that would be perfect for cosine, but we also have this x squared. So what I'm going to do then is that for my x components, right, these would be 2 pi, this is going to be -2 pi, +2 pi, or in this case, -7, +7. These are x. Now, what I'm going to end up with is I want to multiply this times, it's going to be, then y is equal to x squared times the cosine values. So in this case, x squared is 49 times cosine, which is -1 to +1. Because basically what this x squared does, it's going to make a lot of these values bigger because we're multiplying it. And so then for my y values, I am going to say, -49 to +49 is going to be adequate. It's, if you wanted to type in 50 to 50, -50 to 50, all of these, because these are appropriate. This is not the only answer. In fact, I think in the guided notes I have a slightly different answer. And the point is that you just have to have it be at least, at least 2 pi, at least 2 pi, at least 1. I'm making a little bit of a bigger one here to make that a little bit easier, but this is your bare minimum. Now, just as a quick review, if we want to find extrema, we're going to want to use our second function. So click second, and then you want to go to the trace key. But since you click the second button first, you're going to get calc as calculate. And if it's asked, find the maximum on the function from 0 to 10. Well, if you graph this function here from 0 to 10, you would get a function like this. And so the maximum in that range is here. So remember, you'll ask you for your left bound, and you'll have your little cursor, and you want to click something in this range, and then you'll click the arrows going over to find your right bound. Over here, click enter, and then at the bottom of your screen, it'll tell you the point, which is 6.579 and 41.403. And again, if you want to see the whole function from 0 to 10, it's like, oh, well, I only said to 7. Well, that's okay, just go back to the window, type in 10 and 0 here, and that'll give you the exact thing you're interested in while keeping, negative 49 to positive 49, which you'll be able to see your function just fine like that. Now, you're going to have another option here, and this is called solver, and this is going to be a really important feature on your calculator for the rest of your mathematics and scientific careers. So, if I ask you to solve tan of 2x is equal to x plus 3 on the interval of 0 to pi. So that means find the solution in that range for this equation. Now, you can't solve this by hand. You can only, because you have a trig function on one side and a polynomial on the other. So whenever you have a mix of types of functions in an equation, you usually means you can't solve by hand, right? If you had trig and a log function, if you had a polynomial and, an exponential, you're not going to be able to solve it by hand. Sorry if there's a little dog noise in the background. But what you can do is you can use your calculator to solve it. So the first thing you're going to do is go to the math button, and you're going to scroll to the bottom, and you're going to see something called solver, or maybe it's mathematical solver, numerical solver, anything like that. All right, now for some of you, it's going to pop up with a screen that's already 0 equals. If it's 0 equal, just set your equation equal to 0. So in this case, I would just subtract tangent of 2x from both sides, and now it's equal to 0. Some of your calculators won't make you do this. Some of the older models, they do need it to be equal to 0, so just do that for them. They're old. Now, once you've got that, type in your function. You're going to have the variable key here for your x values. So you've got x, usually we'll have like a list. Make sure that you put parentheses there. And because you have a trig function, you'll notice that this is in radians. Make sure that your mode has also been changed to radians, right? If this said 360, that would be a sign that you want your mode to be in degrees. So once you've typed in your equation, you'll get a screen below it that says x equals and then a number. This number tells your calculator what area you want to guess in. So it's basically the same thing as saying, okay, I'm looking for a maximum in this area. This is saying I'm looking for a solution around this number. Now, since I'm looking between 0 and pi, you want to just guess a number in between those. So what I would do is 0 and pi is between 0 and 3.14, so maybe I type in 1.5 in there. It could be whatever you want. If you want to use your calculator button to type in pi over 2, get it exactly in the middle, that's just fine. And now here's the part to remember, is that if you look at the button that says enter, there is a third option. So there's usually entry and then there's solve as an option. And in order to get that option, the first button you have to click before that is the alpha button. So you have to click that and then solve. It'll do some thinking, and then it will replace your guess with the actual answer, which in this case is 2.262. So in these problems, not a lot of work to show for them, but you're definitely going to want to take the time, practice this strategy, because you're going to be using it a ton, and it's super helpful because if you're allowed a calculator, you can now solve every single question as long as you kind of know the range that your answer is going to be in. Again, if you get stuck on anything, please nominate. If you asked a question, please go back and check your emails and look for the solution. And